ATP is a critically important biological molecule. It serves as the energy currency of cells, the molecule that your cells can actually modify and exchange in order to do work, in order to do just about anything. ATP is actually a modified nucleotide, which makes it related to the nucleic acids. So remember, nucleotide is a monomer of the nucleic acids. And ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. This is a busy slide, but bear with me for a moment. Here we're looking at the detailed chemical structure of adenosine triphosphate. So just focus on this bit for a moment. You can see that we have the adenine nitrogenous base, right? You can see that we have the ribose sugar. So since it's a ribose sugar, we know that we are looking at an RNA nucleotide because of that ribose. If it were a DNA nucleotide, it would have deoxyribose. But it's been modified a bit. Most of the nucleotides that go into making up RNA and DNA only have a single phosphate group. But here, ATP has 3 phosphate groups. That's where it gets the name triphosphate, because tri, of course, means 3, like a tricycle has 3 wheels. Now, these last 2 phosphate groups, these extra phosphate groups on ATP, are joined by high energy bonds. That just means that it takes a lot of energy to attach those phosphate groups onto adenosine. This last phosphate group in particular really doesn't want to be there, and it releases a lot of energy when this last phosphate group is removed. When this last bond is broken, the energy that is freed up can be used to power most of the activities of the cell. You can convince other molecules of the cell. Your cell can have other molecules do things that they normally wouldn't by sort of exchanging a breakdown of ATP. Okay, so now let's look down here at the terms. When a single molecule, when a single phosphate group is removed from ATP, you get adenosine diphosphate. So adenosine triphosphate has 3 phosphate groups. Adenosine diphosphate has only 2. So going from ATP to ADP releases energy. Now, on average, the resting human body consumes about 40 kilograms, that's 88 pounds of ATP in a single day, in 24 hours. This ATP, when I say it's been consumed, I mean it's been converted to ADP. But the ADP doesn't just sit there, and the ADP isn't like excreted or anything like that. Instead, the ADP is made into new ATP, right? So there's this constant cycling between ATP and ADP, and then ADP being converted back to ATP. Now we know from talking in the previous slide that when ATP is converted to ADP, that releases energy. And there are no free rides in life. You need to put that energy back in order to convert ADP to ATP. You need to put energy in to shove that last phosphate group back onto ADP. And where this energy comes from, it ultimately comes from the breakdown of food, specifically from the breakdown of energy-containing nutrients in your food, carbohydrates and lipids and protein. The breakdown of those food molecules gives the energy to make ATP so that then ATP can be exchanged to do work. Now, I mentioned when we started this discussion that ATP is the energy currency of your cells, what's actually exchanged to do work. But your cells don't really store ATP. If ATP is there in the cell, it's going to be used. If your cells want to store energy, they have to store it as more complex biological molecules. And glycogen in your liver or your muscle cells, or triglycerides in your adipose tissue. So these large, complex biological molecules are sort of like the bank. It's where you store up that energy so that you can access it at a later date. When your cells need more energy, glycogen is broken down to glucose, and triglycerides are broken down to fatty acids. And then these intermediate molecules circulate through the blood. So glucose and free fatty acids, they circulate through your body in the blood, and they can be taken up by cells out of the blood in order to make ATP. And then actually in your cells, that is where you get glucose and fatty acids being broken down in order to generate this energy currency. So the glucose and the fatty acids, they circulate. They're a bit more accessible. That's why I think they're kind of like ATMs. But you can't turn an ATM over to the checker at a grocery store, so you still have to take those glucose and fatty acids and convert them to the cash on hand, the ATP. All right, after studying this video, you should be able to address these questions. ATP is something that we'll be hearing a lot about this quarter and next quarter, and all throughout your study of how the human body functions.